When you think of festivals in India, you think of just explosions of color, right? Of sound and joy. But behind those incredible fireworks lighting up the sky, there's a much darker, more dangerous side. And what's so tragic is that the very things made to celebrate life, well, they're all too often the things that end it. And our story today, it doesn't start with a celebration. It starts with a terrifying blast. Okay, so I want you to just imagine a sound. A sound so powerful, so earth-shaking, that people for miles around literally thought it was an earthquake. I mean, they thought the ground itself was cracking open. That's what it was like in Thrissur, in India's southern state of Kerala, one Tuesday afternoon. But this wasn't some natural disaster. No, this was entirely man-made, and the consequences were absolutely devastating. And the human cost, it was just staggering. 13 people. 13 lives gone in an instant. The real heartbreak, the irony here, is that they died while they were getting ready for one of the biggest, most joyous festivals in the entire region.
All right, so let's set the scene. This all happened in Thrissur, in Kerala. And what was going on? Well, they were getting ready for the Thrissur Puram. Now, if you don't know, this is a huge annual temple festival, and it's famous for its absolutely insane firework displays.
And when you look at the details, you really get a picture of just how precarious this whole operation was. I mean, we are not talking about some high-tech, state-of-the-art factory here, no. These were just temporary sheds, thrown up near some paddy fields. You had about 40 workers crammed inside, putting together these incredibly complex fireworks for the famous Thiruvambadi temple. So when that first explosion hit, trying to get help in there was a total nightmare. The roads were bad and everyone was terrified of more blasts going off.
And look, as awful as this incident in Thrissur was, the really scary part, the really alarming thing, is that this wasn't some freak accident. It's not an isolated event at all. It's actually part of a much bigger, much deadlier pattern.
So you have to ask, right? Was this just a one-off tragedy? A terrible, unlucky accident? Well, the evidence, it says absolutely not. Not even close.
Get this. Just 2 days before the blast in Kerala, another firecracker factory exploded in the next state over, Tamil Nadu. That one killed 25 people. So let's just process that for a second. 2 massive, deadly explosions, same industry, same part of the country, in the span of 3 days. That's not a coincidence. That is a symptom of a huge, systemic problem.
There's a line from one of the articles we looked at that just nails it. It calls these explosions a grim routine. And wow, think about that phrase, a grim routine. It perfectly captures this horrifying sense of normalcy, right? These disasters happen so often, they're so predictable, that they've almost become expected. Just another part of the cycle.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Why? Why does this industry, which is all about celebration, have such a shockingly high body count? What's really going on behind the scenes that makes it so dangerous?
Well, it's really a perfect storm of risk. For starters, a huge part of this industry is informal. We're talking low-cost setups, not big professional operations. Then you have workers handling these super volatile chemical cocktails, often in really cramped, poorly ventilated rooms. Add to that, safety enforcement is, well, it's pretty weak. And all of this is fueled by this immense, and I mean immense, cultural demand for bigger, brighter, louder fireworks for every wedding and festival. You put all that together, it is just a recipe for disaster.
And if you want to find the epicenter of all this, you have to go to a place called Sivakasi in Tamil Nadu. It's basically the fireworks capital of India. Most of the country's supply comes from right here. And tragically, that also makes it ground zero for accidents. And the numbers, I mean, just look at this number. It's absolutely staggering. Almost 10,000 accidents, and that's just in Sivakasi in only a 7-year span. Buried in that number are almost 400 fatal incidents. So this is not a new problem. This is a chronic, decades-long crisis that just keeps claiming lives.
And if you need any more proof of just how catastrophic these failures can be, we just have to look back a few years, to 2016, to a horrific disaster at the Pudigal Temple, which, by the way, is also in Kerala. And what happened there is a chilling echo of the exact same problems we're talking about.
So here's what happened. They had this massive, unauthorized stockpile of fireworks just stored at the temple. They were getting ready for a competitive fireworks show. All it took was one stray spark from the display to hit that stockpile. It set off this devastating chain reaction. The explosion was so huge it killed over 100 people and injured 400 more. Just unbelievable.
And surprise, surprise, the investigation afterwards found that basic safety rules had been completely thrown out the window. And the reason why? Well, there was all this pressure from the community, from the organizers, to put on the most spectacular show ever, to just ignore the rules for the sake of tradition. You see the pattern here? It's the same story, demand and pressure completely trumping basic safety.
So, after decades of this, of these grim routines, is there any way to finally break this deadly cycle? Well, after the Thrisher blast, the official response was exactly what you'd expect. It was swift and it was predictable. You know the drill. An inquiry is ordered, financial aid is announced for the victims' families, medical experts are sent in. And look, all of those things are important, they're necessary, but they're all reactive. They happen after the tragedy has already struck. They don't prevent it. And that leaves us with the one really critical question. Because financial aid and inquiries, they're the response, but they're not the solution. As long as all those systemic risks are still there, you know, the informal setups, the weak enforcement, that incredible pressure to celebrate, the next tragedy doesn't feel like a question of if, but when. So what is it really going to take to finally balance that deep desire for celebration with the fundamental right to be safe?